No Hard Feelings is a fun and seemingly lighthearted coming of age story for a young man during the summer before he goes away to college. It's charming, it's funny, and there are even some things in it that are weirdly uncomfortable. No Hard Feelings has a lot going for it, but there are some odd issues too. Okay, so let's get into it. But first, remember to go ahead and hit the subscribe button and just let me know that you're here. So, the premise of the film is that Maddie, a young looking 32-year-old woman played by Jennifer Lawrence, lives in Montauk, New York. It's a summer hotspot for the rich. And she loses her car, which means she's also lost her only means of making enough money to pay off her skyrocketing property tax so that she doesn't lose her family home. In desperation, she takes a job posted by a pair of helicopter parents who want her to kind of break their son Percy out of his shell and to kind of have sex with him in return for their old car. And that's kind of weird right there, but they're both technically adults, so I guess. Well, anyway, we get these surprising and delightful moments between Maddie and Percy as they share personal and important things about themselves. As they get to know each other better, you can't help but to see how they develop a real affection for one another and a meaningful friendship that ultimately benefits them both. It really is a coming of age story for both Percy and Maddie, despite her being so much older than him. The older woman fantasy trope for high school boys is a long-time Hollywood favorite in the teen film genre. However, if we were to gender swap the Maddie and Percy characters so that the shy teen was an 18-year-old girl and her parents were the ones paying a 32-year-old man to break her out of her shell and to have sex with her before going off to college, you'd have a really different and really awkward film that wouldn't be as socially lighthearted or charming and romantic. And that's another weird thing right there. I mean, yeah, it kind of feels weird when you spin it that direction. This brings me to thinking about how we treat young men in society today, the expectations we place on them, and the things we think are okay for them or even cool for a boy to do, but not for a girl. And that just doesn't seem fair to young men who are expected to grow up and be kind, loving, and socially normal, whatever that means. And looking at the story and plot of No Hard Feelings through this lens leaves me feeling a lot more uncomfortable about the film as a whole. Still, it it is a charming film and it is fun and it will make you laugh. So we have Maddie, a beautiful working class 32-year-old woman who never had a successful relationship and who has no family she can turn to for help. She has no education, no career path, no career goals ahead of her, and really no financial safety net for her future other than her house. And she is literally alone in the world, except for a few friends that she has who are local, who she grew up with. And she has Percy, who helps her to break out of that fear that's kind of been holding her back and keeping her in Montauk. So, through that relationship she strikes up with him, she gets the courage to kind of strike out on her own. So knowing him gives her that opportunity to know herself and to realize her own possibilities. Without giving any real spoilers for the film, one of the things about Maddie's story that bothers me is that her growth basically has her opening up and taking a chance on herself, but the film doesn't put time into developing this part of her character. So while we see Percy's successful future ahead of him, we don't know what chance she's taking. We don't know what future she's heading toward or what success would ultimately mean for her as a character. That just isn't developed in the film. So while I left the theater feeling good and enjoying the film, I drove away and started really thinking about it, thinking about those ending scenes. And I was kind of haunted by the idea that this was Percy's summer of upward transformation, but we really don't know where Maddie's going. If we consider their futures 20 years from now, we can imagine Percy being a rich 30-something Princeton grad, while Maddie is basically the same person, just older, because the screenwriters didn't leave us with an equal sense of her future or her potential. It's just sad because this was as much her coming of age story as it was his, and they didn't put time into developing that part of her character. The last thing I wanted to mention here is the helicopter parents. You know, those parents who do everything for their kids? No Hard Feelings does a really good job of showing us what these parents are like and the impact that they have on their children's development. I loved how the film shifts the responsibility to Percy for helping his parents to have their own coming of age moment, which forces them to kind of take a step back so that he can figure things out on his own and for himself. I don't think parenting is easy, and this film highlights how easy it is to fall into the trap of overparenting out of love. And I would also like to just give a special shout out to Matthew Broderick, the teen icon from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I feel like he brings the film full circle because he was once the young teen actor in these coming of age movies, and he does a fantastic job of playing a modern day helicopter dad. The irony here is fantastic. Kudos to whoever made that fantabulous casting choice. Overall, I think most people will enjoy No Hard Feelings, and I do hope a lot of people go to see this film because I want you to think about the ending and how the screenwriters really focused on developing each of these characters and setting them both up for those ending scenes in the film. And I want you to think about where that takes each of them in the future, because I think that's actually where the richness of the film lives, as it makes us think about these two characters, their ages, and the different roads ahead for each of them, as well as how they may or may not fit into each other's lives in the future. I mean, that's all part of the coming of age story as well. Okay, that's all I have for you. If you like this review, please be sure to subscribe and spread the word. Thanks so much, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye.